Chevaniac was sub-infeudated. It had an overlord, which means ownership. And Michel Louis, you recall, Marie Catherine's youngest son, would be the lord of Chevaniac. But there was an overlord. This overlord could call in favors. It was like a lien on the property. So ownership was conditional. And this overlord could call in favors. That could be money. That could be requiring that men and supplies were given to the overlord to do whatever he wanted to do. Marie Catherine recognized this, and she knew that it was a problem. The overlord, we know who the overlord was. It was Yves Marie Desmarais, Comte de Malibaud. Malibaud was a military man, distinguished military career, but he fell out of favor with King Louis XV. Big problem. He was in prison for a time, perhaps in need of cash. In any event, Marie Catherine recognized an opportunity. And on April the 7th, 1762, major seminal event. Our Lafayette at that time was about 4 years old. A major event, Marie Catherine, she bought the extinction of Lafayette, of Chevaniac's feudality. She paid off the lien. The only allegiance now that Chevaniac had was to the king himself. No intervening middleman, no overlord. This gets very little attention, but Marie Catherine is the one who made that decision, and it was major. Marie Catherine was smart, and she was wise. Michel Louis Christophe Roche Gilbert. It comes tripping off the tongue. So this is Marie Catherine's son, and he married Marie-Louise Julie de la Rivière on May 22nd, 1754. He was 22, she was 17. He had to make an appearance at the court of Louis XV first, such that he became a noble officially. He spent one day doing this. Even so, he didn't have the connections with Louis XV to get Louis XV's blessing for this marriage. That had to be done. Julie was of a noble family, and Michel Louis, noble family. Before the two could marry, the king had to sign off on it, and there was reason behind that. The king did not want two powerful families consolidating their power by way of marriage and then opposing him. So Michel Louis, before he could get married, not only had to present himself at court, done, that box checked, but now he had to get a family member to intercede for him with the king, to convince the king to bless this marriage, which was done. So the Marquis de la Rivière was Julie's father, and he was a Breton noble. He spent most of his time at the estates in Brittany. Brittany is that thumb that sticks out over on the west of France. It's also called Little Britain, as opposed to Great Britain. And his estate there, Caraflay. The Marquis had been a military man, and that didn't work out, so he focused on building his wealth. And he was wealthy. Of the Rivière clan, he is the one that had money in the bank. The Marquis de la Rivière had married his cousin, you recall. Just to repeat, he had married his cousin who had the same name that he did. And his wife's father, and his wife was Julie Louise Céleste de la Rivière. Her father was the Comte de la Rivière. So they had the same last names, but the Comte de la Rivière was father-in-law to Marquis de la Rivière, who was the son-in-law. It's a great trivia question. Sometimes when you read about this, the Comte and the Marquis, they're conflated. It's assumed that they're father and son, and they were not. Now, where the Marquis de la Riviere was a commercial man, the Comte de la Riviere, this would be our Lafayette's great-grandfather on his mother's side, was a military man. He had been a lieutenant general in the French army, and he had been commandant of the second company of the King's Black Musketeers. Let's talk about this. These musketeers, it was a group of swashbuckling group. This group was formed in 1622 by King Louis XIII. They were part of the king's retinue of bodyguards, not the main bodyguard unit, but sort of a cadet branch bodyguard unit. So they were infantrymen who were armed with muskets, therefore musketeers. So these were the king's musketeers, in fact. So King Louis had this band of bodyguards, of musketeers. Cardinal Richelieu at the time sort of liked that idea. Said, this is grand to have my own bodyguard. So Cardinal Richelieu formed his own musketeer branch. There was a lot of internecine struggle between the two, a lot of caterwauling between them. Finally, Louis XIV reorganized these musketeers. There was the first company, which would be the King's Musketeers, and these were the gray musketeers, because of the gray horses that they rode. The Cardinal's Musketeers, from that Cardinal Cadet branch, this was the second company, and these were black musketeers, because of the black horses that they rode. And of course, their regalia, the tabards that they wore, so those were the coats that you could identify 10 miles away. They were colorful, swashbuckling. So the Comte de la Riviere was commandant of this second company of Black Musketeers. In time, our Lafayette would start his military career